What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up a free hat and or shirt like the Greg Dortch tee. Every single year, you are a diehard. What's up to the chat? What's up to my co-host, my brother, Brack, today on a football Tuesday? How we living?
I thought we were living pretty well. And then, I wake up and see that the premier mock draft or NFL draft expert, Daniel Jeremiah, has crafted himself another mock draft. And I innocently open it up, and to my horrified eyes, I felt betrayed a little bit by DJ today. So I know we're going to get into it, but, I also would like to say hi to the chat. Han Shot First, what's going on? Dee, what's going on? Gannonite. I see you, Chase. I see you, Tyler. I see you, Emily. The crew's here. Exciting. I mean, here to talk some Cardinals football. Less than a week away. We're going to be in Indianapolis hanging out by your favorite TJ Maxx, watching the NFL Combine.
I'm a Maxinista, baby. That's right. I will not forget my winter coat this year. Last year, I did not have a coat, and I had to go into TJ Maxx and buy one on the spot. I don't even know what happened to that coat. Yeah. Brian in the chat, love this comment. He said, was Brack more burned in Mobile or for his mock draft yesterday?
Look, sometimes you take an L in life, and it was a valuable lesson. But, I'm going to give my Tebow speech here, and you're not going to see anybody that's going to study harder. You're not going to see anybody that's going to work all the different scenarios in future mock drafts harder than I am. I'm going to... I'm going to hit the analytics. I'm going to hit the manalytics. I'm going to hit the doglytics. Thanks, Jess.
I hate this show already, by the way.
We're going,
I hate everything.
I'm going as hard as anybody can go from here on forth, because I need to make up for that giant poop stain that I call a mock draft yesterday.
Are we even going to do one next week in Indy? Are we going to do a live mock draft on there, you think?
Yeah, we should. We'll just sit there. We'll have one computer in front of us, which I think played in a tremendous advantage to you.
Our screen, though, because we're not going to be on StreamYard. I think you might have to live with this for a couple different weeks, but I digress. It's great to see everybody here in the chat. Like this video, become a member here on the YouTube page, a subscriber, as they say. Let's start with Daniel Jeremiah, because it was semi-horrifying. So let's paint the picture. Are folks cooling on Jaden Daniels? I sure hope not. But you've got, let's just call a spade a spade. I think Matt Miller is a little bit fraudulent as a draft analyst. He's not my favorite person. And he's out there saying today, hot take, Jaden Daniels or whomever shouldn't go to the Patriots because they can't support a rookie. And we're already playing revisionist history of, because it didn't work with Bryce Young and the Panthers roster was a mess, that means Patriots better not take a rookie quarterback. Like, what? Can we be fair for a second? That's a terrible take by Matt Miller. And he's just not my favorite guy. I'm sure he's a nice dude. I have never heard him say anything that I'm just like super valuable. Thank you, Matt Miller. Yeah. I saw that today and I'm like, is that coming out because Daniel Jeremiah did what he did in his mock draft? Maybe.
Oh man. I mean, how many top drafted quarterbacks, how often are they going into an organization with the infrastructure, that really would complement and really raise the game of a rookie signal caller? It very rarely happens. I mean, If you're picking at the top of the draft, your roster's usually in shambles. So that argument absolutely stinks. And
should the Cardinals have passed on Kyler Murray because they've had the first overall pick and they couldn't support him?
I mean, as far as that's the argument, right? One of the worst rosters in 2018 It has no business. You could make that case against any position. But if you're going to make one for a position and you're going to say they don't have the infrastructure, and I'm paraphrasing, he just said that they don't have the roster in place for a rookie quarterback, then you don't have a fucking roster in place for a wide receiver. Come on, what are we doing here? It's the most important position in sports. And if there's a player that you deem valuable enough or that you've scouted and say that's a franchise caliber signal caller, you go get him. That's your starting off point, because then going forward, you say, hey, we got that box checked. And I know that you can put, it's not the ideal situation. Bryce Young, it was awful for the poor kid last year. It was awful for Trevor Lawrence. But often what happens is you make a significant jump in year 2. Your organization builds around you at that point. It's easy. It's way easier, I think, from a team building standpoint to start with the quarterback and then build out, instead of build the entire roster and then say, oh, we're just a quarterback away. Because how many quarterbackless teams have been just rudderless ships for so many seasons?
It's like, go ask every team in the NFC South. They're like a quarterback away. They've spent years building up their rosters. Atlanta's got Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitt. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. And then he did kind of allude to, like, this isn't like Houston last year with, quote, a Hall of Fame left tackle in Laramie Tunsil. Houston's pass protection wasn't very good.
Right.
Like they hit on I think a blue chip quarterback prospect, and now a top 10 quarterback in CJ Stroud. Like, this is not an inexact science. Like, you have to roll the dice at the end of the day. If this was an exact science, every year teams would go perfect for drafting quarterbacks. And the ones that we knew would bust, nobody would take those guys. No one would take, once upon a time, a Johnny Manziel. But, like, we don't know. You got to roll the dice at the end of the day. I can't believe we've gotten to a point now in the offseason where it's appropriate to say, you know what, to your point, Bo, don't take the QB, you're not ready, but take the receiver who doesn't have a quarterback, right? So we compare him with a Ryan Tannehill or a Jacoby Brissett. That's the ticket. That's what we want to be doing. Let's start the clock on when we have to pay Marvin before we even get the quarterback. I can't believe that's the rationale. And to people's credit in the chat, it's like, if the Patriots don't take a quarterback, the only alternative is to trade down and do what the Cardinals did last year and get assets and resources. Like, Cardinals have 6 picks in the top 100, 7 picks in the top 105. If the Patriots want to emulate that approach, go ahead. But to sit there and say, and it's not just because I'm a Marvin Harrison Jr. stan and I desperately want him in the desert.
Like, you simp for Marv. You're big Marv.
Very much. And I'm not even sure what that term means half the time, but I accept it. I admit it. The New England Patriots with Marvin Harrison Jr. is such a waste for not only the league and the draft process, but for the Patriots themselves. You're in a division where you inclement weather. It's just not an option for them short term. We always talk about the Cardinals. Do a lot of these teams deserve to draft and support a rookie quarterback? That's a narrative that's out there. You don't deserve to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, that's as bluntly as I can put it. Like, it fits nothing with your rebuilding timeline.
Where do you start? Like, somebody asked Matt Miller that. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just jump on the bird on
X.
You
might say trade down, and
I'll just say, hey, Matt, if you don't start with a quarterback, where do you start? Because traditionally, that's what I know to be true. And maybe you could say what the correct thing would to say is like, hey, I don't see it in Jaden Daniels. I just don't see him as the guy as a franchise caliber quarterback. I just don't. But instead, it's like, hey, New England doesn't have the ability to elevate this guy's game. Well, I would say that's half the league. I mean, that's. But if you can find a guy, him pointing just to the most recent just example of that in Carolina Panthers, I'm skeptical of just Bryce Young going forward, and I think that it's more in the case of the quarterback himself. Because I think, obviously Kyler Murray proved way more than Bryce Young ever did in his rookie season.
Not even close.
It's not. And he had the organization going in the right direction. And then Steve Keim the next offseason is like, hey, I got to go get a playmaker now for this guy. I got to, he goes out and he gets a DeAndre Hopkins and so on and so forth. And you move forward, right? Building around that guy. But if he's not the guy, it's a problem. And I see in the chat, I think it was Victor saying, was it Victor? And I apologize if it wasn't. It's 49ers have seemed to be able to do it pretty well. Well, the 49ers seem to be the exception. And then also the 49ers whiffed tremendously on a quarterback, and they had him with an incredible infrastructure. And it comes down to the prospect where Trey Lance was just bad. He's just he can't play.
Matt Miller, by the way, is a Niner fan. And I see a lot of people in the chat saying he hates on Kyler Murray. It's because he's a Niner fan. In part, and so it's hard for him to be objective about the Niners and non-objective about the Arizona Cardinals and quote unquote their dysfunction. But to your point right there, it's like what he's suggesting is just go the Trey Lance route. We'll wait until the roster is ready to go, then we'll pounce. Everybody, thankfully, in his comments, and I just checked them, Bo. People are like laughing my ass off. Like, what are you even talking about? Like you either sink or swim. I saw somebody make that comment to him. Like, yeah, you like a guy's either has the goods or he doesn't. Now, you don't want to get him killed, but like, are we saying that, well, after you take Jaden Daniels or Drake May 3rd, like that's it, the roster's set? No, you be aggressive. You sign players in free agency. You can recoup more draft assets. You build a team and you got to hit on your picks. Like at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You got to go out and hit on like Tank Dell of the world. You have to be creative like that. Like CJ Stroud, as great as he was, didn't do it by himself. Nico Collins came into his own. So like somebody needs to tell Matt Miller, like the offseason doesn't start and end with Jaden Daniels or Drake May at number 3. You get other assets and resources. Maybe they should re-sign their best free agent, which just happens to play offensive line. That'd probably help. That'd probably help the case a little bit for Jaden Daniels succeeding. So I don't know, man. It just feels like we're in this territory of, well, let's just say things to say things at this point because we're too in vogue with the top 4 in the draft coming out the way everybody predicts it to be.
Is that it? I mean, is the draft going to go? Does it just feel like it's pointing all signs to chalk being 3 quarterbacks and then the Arizona Cardinals with the opportunity to get Marvin Harrison Jr. and people's bosses are like, well, we've been saying this now for over a month. We need something different. Is Miller's tweet today and Daniel Jeremiah, who I think is is the most respected. I think he's the premier NFL draft expert right now. I mean, he's the draft expert, the lead guy for the NFL Network and their draft coverage, and he's cooking up the mock draft 2.0 that he did today. Is it all just a product of, hey, it's February 20th. We got more than 2 months to get to the NFL draft, and we can't have our top 5 basically locked in.
Yes, 100%. And I also think like it plays a part in the speculation that the league wants to withhold. We remember like the Cardinals knew they were taking Kyler Murray for weeks, and the league didn't want them to allude to that. And I also think now with this Justin Fields situation feeling very more imminent by the day, then it becomes, well, we need New England to have some intrigue, and we need the Commanders to have some intrigue which quarterback they're going to take, right? Because it's a television product at the end of the day. Justin Fields is going to be traded. Like, could he be traded today? Could he be traded before the combine? I think that's very much on the table. He's unfollowing everybody on social media. I think I saw recently he's being the number 1 overall pick is being removed from draft sites to even wager on because it's a foregone conclusion Caleb Williams is going to go to Chicago. I think now it's just like, okay, what can we stir up for some intrigue at pick 2 and really pick number 3? It's interesting. And you bring up Daniel Jeremiah. Let's go ahead and take a look at his mock draft, his top 10, which, I mean, listen, Malik Nabers is a great prospect. He's a great prospect. He goes 4th overall to the Cardinals. This is very similar to my mock yesterday. Marvin Harrison Jr. going 3rd to the Patriots. Jaden Daniels, for whatever reason, Jaden Daniels is ready to succeed for the Giants, but not the Patriots. Make that make sense. Whatever. Joe Alt, Alu Fashanu sandwich between J.J. McCarthy to the Falcons, which is just horrifying if you're a Falcon fan. Roma Dunze, great value for the Bears, and Fuega somehow sneaking into the top 10. So 3 tackles go top 10, along with 3 wide receivers. I don't see a defensive player in there, which leads you to believe that this draft is offensive heavy. Looking at this mock, Bo, I mean, what do you make of it? Is this worst case scenario for the Cardinals?
This is so just a qualifier. Daniel Jeremiah does point out that he doesn't make any trades. So I think that this is this is not worst case scenario. I think that if this were to be how the draft dominoes fall for the Arizona Cardinals, I don't think you and I would have a tough time painting this as a positive for Monti Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon going forward. But it doesn't maximize their ability to get better and kind of turn into this well-oiled machine that's going to be just full of draft capital and assets while also infusing the roster with talent. But Malik Neighbors, like, let's not discount how really talented he is, in that he is the second best playmaker in this draft behind a Marvin Harrison Jr.
I don't know what the Cardinals would do in this scenario. I know their preference would be to trade down.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit here and tell you that they would take Malik Neighbors over Joe Alt or Alu Fashanu.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. But I just don't think that this is the worst of all reality.
I don't either. I think it's disrespectful to Malik Neighbors to suggest that.
Yeah.
I think if you had asked me if this goes down this way and there's not a trade partner, and I don't know who they have ranked higher between the two tackles, I would say it's Joe Alt would be the pick at 4.
Well, and it comes down to, Johnny, to your point, it's just like, if the New England Patriots aren't going to do what's best for their organization, and it absolutely is either taking a quarterback or maximizing the third pick like Monti Ossenfort did last year and trading down and accumulating assets, if they're not going to do it and they're going to be selfish losers and take Marvin Harrison Jr.
So selfish.
Take it from steal it from us, then Monti Ossenfort has nothing else to do but to do what the Patriots should have done and do it again for a second consecutive draft and maximize his pick. And the best way to do that is to just kind of, and it has a bigger advantage than he did last year, and actually having a quarterback on the board that somebody's going to want to come up for. And I think that he could really, really get some pretty decent results while staying within striking distance of top 10 talent.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think, like, you call up the Atlanta Falcons and you're like, you really want to roll with JJ McCarthy or you want a chance at Jaden Daniels? Let's have a conversation. Even if it's like you go from 4 to 8 and you're looking at, if you can't get a 1 next year, you get maybe 2 2s or something like that. You weigh that option. But
right.
I'm with
like
you.
What you were saying, man, like Malik Neighbors is worth the 4th overall selection.
In the draft. A reach by any
Joe
means.
Alt as well. And you could probably say Olu Fashanu. And I think that there are players that are worthy of that. But as far as the conversation becomes, what's the best way to maximize your pick?
Right.
4th overall, Marvin Harrison Jr. is there. You stick and pick. That's maximizing your pick. You get a generational type talent right there immediately on your roster. That's the best move for your franchise to come away from the 4th overall selection and draft and say, hey, we did the best we could with that selection. And
I'm so glad you brought that up too, by the way, because we faced this situation last year with the Arizona Cardinals where you and I sat there and pounded the table and said, Tyree Wilson is not worth the 3rd overall pick. He wasn't our favorite prospect to begin with, but when the Cardinals were being mocked Tyree Wilson and we heard that they kind of low-key liked him, not only is that a bad move from an optic standpoint with Will Anderson Jr., he was not a good enough prospect to be top 5, frankly. And he fell out of the top 5 as a result. Like Witherspoon, we felt good about him. And even, I would have been okay, wouldn't have been my first choice, Paris Johnson Jr., 3rd overall, because he had the tape. He had the positional value. He was the number 1 tackle. Like, there is no Tyree Wilson scenario the Cardinals are going to face this year, even at a pick later, because they're so fortunate these quarterbacks are going to go where they are. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, Marvin's gone at 3. You're Monti Ossenfort. You can't trade down. I think right now, unequivocally, if you ask me, what are they doing? I think they're going to take an offensive tackle. And we're going to have some more information we're going to be able to give out as we inch closer to the combine with regard to the plan with their offensive line. But I 100% believe that this franchise thinks that, okay, we can get a left tackle for Kyler Murray or right tackle, and then we can get a receiver later. And like, that's not my preference, but I believe that they think deep down, when we develop Michael Wilson, maybe we go receiver at 27 or 35, and then we go receiver again late in the 3rd round. Yeah. And then we can double up on a couple players. Real quick, then I'll shut up. I think that initially we thought there's a better chance to get your secondary tackle at 27. I wonder now if there's a better chance to get the receiver.
Yeah. I mean, when I was hoisting up jumpers today, working on my mock draft game, there was a couple different scenarios, right? Because where Jaden Daniels is in the PFF mock draft simulator, my simulator of choice,
Yes.
they have Jaden Daniels 22nd overall. And often the Patriots are taking Marvin Harrison Jr., those dirty rat bastards. And I'm having to pivot, right? And one of the moves is to, either stick and pick and take a Joe Alt or Malik Neighbors, or trade down, and then you're taking Alt or Fashanu. And then at 27th overall, you're looking at guys like Troy Franklin, and that's not the worst consolation prize. And with what you would get in return for a trade down, plus those caliber of players. I mean, Troy Franklin, a 6'3" playmaker out of Oregon, obviously a different tier below the top three guys, and in Marv and Malik and Rome Odunze, but certainly somebody that's going to make plays at the NFL level. So it absolutely could just flip itself and just go. You're looking to really bolster the offensive line and work on the trenches with the top prospects in the draft, or you're leaning on the depth at the back end, and you flip that tackle with wide receiver.
I think their preference, based on the information that you and I are gathering behind the scenes, is Marvin is generational, and he's almost like the exception to like how they want to roster build. And you have to go with it because he's a Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones kind of player. And if that's not an option, I don't want a waterfront property, but if it's available to me at a good price and my buddy's selling it to me and I don't have to get a crazy lender, I'm going to pursue that.
Yeah.
But if that's not an option, I'm not just going to detour off of my original plan. And I very much believe that the original plan, if Marvin's not there, and it's taken us a couple weeks to vet this, Bo, is meat and potatoes offensive line, and hopefully making some money in the process. In the terms of wins, can you make some money winning with our friends at BetMGM? Bet 5, get 150 instantly. We're going to talk about Daniel Jeremiah, what he did with the Arizona Cardinals on the back end. Were the Cardinals winners? We'll find out. But you can be winners with our friends at BetMGM. We've got NBA action right around the corner with the conclusion of the All-Star break. Of course, the Coyotes, you're going to bet on them to keep losing. Might be a smart bet, frankly, with how they've been playing. But regardless, if you're going to wager, do it with our friends at BetMGM with the bonus code PHNX. Tell them PHNX Cardinals sent you by downloading the BetMGM Sportsbook app on your iOS or Android device, or check them out at BetMGM.com. Sign up, deposit at least a 5 spot on your newly created account. Remember, it's for new customers, folks. Place a wager in the amount of a $5 standard odds price. Once you have your bet placed, regardless of the outcome of your wager, you're getting $150 in bonus bets. You win, you get that money plus the bonus bets. If you bust, hey, $150 in bonus bets, not a bad place to be, but you got to be with our friends at BetMGM. You got to use the bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to my sweet, sweet producer, the baby boy, Damon Dog, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Let's talk about more ways how that code PHNX can save you money, get you money. With our friends over at Empire Today, you're looking for new flooring, new carpeting in your home, your condo, wherever it may be. Check out our friends over at Empire Today Carpeting and Flooring, and they're making it easy. They're making it quick. They're making it convenient. 3 words, not synonymous with the daunting task of new flooring in your humble abode. With Empire Today, you get to shop at your convenience for the right product for your needs, with that quick professional installation with people that know what they're doing. It's like the Monti Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon of flooring. They're going to know the ins, they're going to know the outs, they're going to know the whys, they're going to know the hows and the how-tos. And Empire Today, they got the best place for new flooring. Of course, they have all the copycats out there, and don't look to them, because the most easy, quick, convenient place to do it is Empire Today. Check out their virtual floor designer, where you can look at what your actual dwelling is going to look like with new flooring on their virtual floor designer. Check it out and start your process with $350 off immediately. Go to empiretoday.com/PHNX. That's going to help you save $350 off new floors with empiretoday.com with that /PHNX. Going to help you save some cash.
Jalen Blair, friend of the program, in the chats, he said, so yesterday you guys alluded to they could spend big money on offensive line free agency. That's correct. Then turn around and pick another O-line if Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't there. That's also correct. Yeah, the sense of urgency is there to get better up front on the offensive line, we've been told. And again, have a pretty good idea of what they're going to do with Paris Johnson Jr. We'll be able to speak on that more here in the coming days. But they need a starting caliber tackle. And again, that's not a shot at Kelvin Beachum, but I think if trying to read the tea leaves a little bit, Bo, I think they view Kelvin Beachum as what he was last year. Swing tackle, spot starter, help in a pinch. I don't think they want to go into the season with Kelvin Beachum as one of their starters. And I also believe that you've got Will Hernandez coming into his final year of his contract. Feel pretty good about Froholt, but he's also only under contract for one more year. And you don't have a starting left guard. So I think if you ask me, do they want a rookie tackle protecting Kyler Murray? If they have to, they will. But then I look at these tackles in free agency. They're not very good. It's too big of an investment for some of these guys. So Jalen Blair, if you're putting me on the spot, I would say big money guard in free agency, top prospected tackle, and then maybe another pick in the middle rounds invested again on the interior. That would be my guess. I have no idea if that's how it's going to play out, but I would say like a decent money invested in a guard to play next to a rookie, maybe even on the left side.
Yeah, when you invest in the trenches, especially when you invest on the offensive line, when you give professional quarterbacks, I don't care if it's Kyler Murray or if you get down to guys like Joshua Dobbs or Colt McCoy 2 seasons ago, when you give those guys time, they have the ability to win and go through their progressions and find the open receivers. And it doesn't, you don't have to have a tremendous skill set or play hero ball to make plays to win football games. It just simplifies things. And I think that that's one of the main things about this new organizational direction, right? As far as the game plan, as far as how they coach things, they're not reinventing things, right? It's not just next level, high level, mathematics or, rocket science. It's the organization doing simple things at a high level. It's like when we talk to Chris Sims on Radio Row, Chris Sims goes through the Los Angeles Rams offensive game plan. And it's, some variation of 4 to 5 to 6 plays that they keep a conflict with the opposing defense. And I think that the Arizona Cardinals are much in line with that when what they want to do organizationally, and when they invest in simple things like up front and at premium positions like the tackle position that just help their quarterback, no matter who it is behind under center in the shotgun, it gives them the ability to win each and every Sunday.
Yeah, 100%. Like that, it's what travels in the NFL, run games and defense. And I love a flashy passing game as much as the next guy, but I also think Kyler Murray, and people have attested to this, looked his best this year without weapons, with a quality offensive line. And I think part of the reason it catches me off guard is we talked about this yesterday, I thought the offensive line was the best position unit on the team. Cardinals do not feel that way. They feel like they overachieved and they got through this season mostly unscathed, outside of, God love him, DJ Humphries, which we can probably, give some insight. They don't expect him to be back next year.
Yeah.
So, they're going to invest, but you're also, by investing in the offensive line, it's cliche. You're investing in Kyler Murray. You're investing in your franchise quarterback to say, okay, Kyler, and we talk about this even with Marvin, like go out and make Michael Wilson and a bunch of rookies and Trey McBride, elevate them. That's why you're being paid franchise quarterback money. Kyler Murray can't elevate a sieve offensive line, an offensive line that's getting smoked by Nick Bosa week in and week out. Like, as Zona in the chat saying, quality O-line will be crucial for Kyler. Absolutely. And it's also crucial for the tone that they want to set up front and how they win football games. Like James Conner played his best football at the end of the year when they said, you know what, we're just going to ride number 6 and we're going to work off a play action. And Kyler Murray, his pass efficiency, there's a tweet going around that supports it, was top 10 in the NFL. And that's off an ACL with, I love Greg Dortch podcast. Greg Dortch is number 1 receiver. I mean, like there's so much room for growth, but the identity, the DNA of this team is physicality, north and south. It's not east and west with undersized receivers anymore.
Yeah.
It isn't.
And what's truly refreshing is, there's whack jobs like myself and my co-hosts, and we'll fire up a mock draft and we're staring down, wide receiver in the first, and we're looking at wide receivers as early as in the second and third round. The organization's not. And the organization to what you said, and I agree with you, like the offensive line was one of the bright spots of the team last year. And whether it's Monti Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon, O-line coach, and they look at it and they said, it's good, but it can be better. And it needs to get better if we want to go to where we want to go. And that's fantastic because that hasn't been in the building.
Well, I know he's just their coordinator, but who runs this offense? It's Drew Petzing. Well, where did Drew Petzing come from? What was the infrastructure of Cleveland? Multiple highly drafted offensive linemen, including, I think, at least 1, maybe 2 first-round tackles, right? An investment in a mid to late round back. I say mid. Nick Chubb was a second rounder. Kareem Hunt, they signed in free agency. Njoku, okay, who I think, did they draft him or did they sign him as a free agent? So he was a first-round tight end. So there's your Trey McBride. Who are their receivers? They traded a 5th-round pick for Amari Cooper. They had Donovan Peoples-Jones once upon a time, who was a 7th rounder. They have a bunch of mid-round receivers. And the Cardinals aren't going to do that, but that just shows the identity of this offense is Kyle Shanahan, Cleveland. And the Niners got Debo in the 2nd round. They splurged on Ayuk when they had 2 first-rounders. He was the 2nd after Javon Kinlaw, who was a huge bust for them. So again, on the spot today, what's today? February 20th. Marvin is in a tier by himself, and I fully believe, and take this to the bank, they will draft Marvin Harrison Jr. if he's there at number 4. If he is gone, and even if they can trade down, but let's just say they can't, the preference is to take a tackle. Right now, today, is my belief of what they're going to do.
And you can sell me on that. I think you can, like, people will be disappointed. Like, oh, I got socks and underwear for my birthday. But when you're changing in the locker room and you got holes in your undies and you look like a hobo, like, then you're going to appreciate that's you got just this standard stuff. Like you need that. It's necessary, right? We keep saying eat your vegetables. So you don't want that. You don't want those stained draws. You want some fresh ones.
And I love and we all have to be comfortable with Malik Neighbors succeeding elsewhere, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Everybody wants a pair of J's and look cool walking down the hallways, but your undergarments got to be.
Yeah.
Come on.
I need some deodorant.
It's going to drive some people away. You get down to it. I don't care who you're with. They're going to say you're a stinky boy and they don't want to hang out with you anymore.
Steven saying, why is Bo looking at my underwear? I don't know. That's a good question.
Let's get it together. Invest in your trenches, right? Get yourself some undies. Also, we ran over this and it completely different. And Vanessa, happy birthday. I see that.
Happy birthday, Vanessa.
Yep. Happy birthday on the heels of our weird conversation that went into
just people hanging out talking about undies. Let's talk about safeties. This is super chat here. First one of the day. I don't want to ignore this one. Let's get this up. We've got Some Scrub, which is not Some Scrub. $1.99. Jeremy Chin as a free agent to replace Buda next year. I'm going to go out on a limb, Some Scrub. I don't think they're ever going to sign a safety in free agency. I will make
not a big money safety.
Not a big money safety.
Yeah.
Gannon made Reed Blankenship a plus player in Philadelphia. Gannon, that's his position. That's his baby. I think it's part of the reason we've speculated Buda's future here. Not a premium position long-term. They don't want to invest a bunch of money. I think the future of the safety position for the Arizona Cardinals post-2024 is Jalen Thompson and a mid-rounder, a mid to late rounder, and some undrafted players. As crazy as that sounds. But we've been conditioned, and I love Buda, to sometimes prioritize positions that maybe don't matter. Jalen Thompson was a 5th rounder, and he's one of the best players on their team. So
yeah, and the same goes for off-ball linebackers, right?
Yeah.
I saw an article today. It was, or within the last 2 days, it was Matt Bowen for ESPN, and he was just kind of connecting dots. Frank LeVoux, who works with Britton Golden. He works out with him. Britton went to the game for the Panthers, got a relationship, and Frank has had an incredible career, and he's going to probably get the bag this offseason as having, 100-plus tackles, 5.5 sacks, picks. He's all over the place. Yeah, I remember when the Cardinals were there in 2022, he was a guy that was making big-time plays for that defense. But I think the Arizona Cardinals have the confidence, at least on the defensive side of the football, with Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis, that they're going to not have to invest a premium on off-ball linebackers like Mike and Mo linebackers and safeties. They're just not going to spend money on them. They're just not. It's not a premium position to this organization. They have the confidence. It's not arrogance. It's the confidence and they've got the proof to show it, that they can take guys, undrafted linebacker out of Wisconsin and TJ Edwards, and a cast off and Kazir White, and turn them into top linebackers, and take guys like Marcus Epps and take guys like Reed Blankenship and put them in positions with their defensive calls to be successful. And then you have your premium positions like your edge, your corners, outside corners that are making big time plays for your defense.
What about Sneed, Landor? I have not heard if they're going to be in on Sneed. I don't know if Sneed's going to be available from Kansas City. Certainly would be an upgrade for the Cardinals. No insight on that as of yet. Jalen Blair asking, I feel like the talk about Buddha too much to let him go. Could you see them extending Buddha and trading JT after 2024 when he has no more guaranteed money, only 1 year left on his deal? No, I think Jalen Thompson, they love Buddha too, but like Jalen Thompson is younger and cheaper. You're going to go with the younger and cheaper guy who, by the way, we'll see what happens in 2024. Jalen Thompson was better than Budda Baker this year, like in terms of like impact on Sunday. And I love Budda, and you have to game plan for Budda. Jalen Thompson took the ball away, had big time turnovers, takeaways. Go look what he did to CJ Stroud in the second half of the Houston game when the defense shut out Houston, terrorized Houston and their receivers and their tight ends. So I think it's probably not great team building as much as I love him. And the Cardinals did this with Adrian Wilson once upon a time to extend the safety into his 30s. It's just probably not the best. The Cardinals will have gotten, after this year, if they keep him, the best years of hopefully a Hall of Fame level career for Budda Baker. Now it's Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury, Michael Bidwell's fault that they couldn't win more while Budda was here. But that's not Ossenfort and Gannon's fault now to say, well, we've got to keep Budda into this next phase because we're going to win a bunch of games. That's tough, man. It's football. That's life. That's business. And Budda's made a lot of money. And if he goes ring chasing with another team, more power to him.
Yeah, I had to look this quote up that I got from one of the near the end of the year Jonathan Gannon press conferences. And this is what he said about Jalen Thompson. And I asked the question, and he said, he's got a versatile skill set. Everything you want to me in the modern NFL. Yep. And if you think about the season that Jalen Thompson had, JT was a guy that throughout training camp was playing slot corner. He was playing a different position. He wasn't playing his usual safety role, and he started the season as their slot corner. Now, when Garrett Williams came, the rookie was finally healthy coming off his ACL tear, he moved to his normal safety position. Mm-hmm. And no matter where he was excelling for the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm sure there's a ton of love for Budda Baker in that organization. But I would bet that Jonathan Gannon absolutely just loves Jalen Thompson and what he brings to this team each and every week.
I mean, there's a 3-year age difference between the two of them. I mean, one guy is going to be 28 when the season starts. The other guy is going to be 26. I mean, it's just.
Is that right?
Yeah. Jalen Thompson's only 25. He turns 26 this summer. Budda just turned 28. Yeah, you're not moving on. Jalen Thompson's going to be on the team. You're going to keep Jalen Thompson. All right. What about pick 27? Let's get back into the Daniel Jeremiah mock draft. This is the back half of his mock draft, a pick that I like a lot more. I also had Cooper DeJean in my mock draft, 25 to the Packers before DJ had that, so I will take ownership of that. Darius Robinson, just a mountain of a man, defensive
Look
line.
at that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he sat next to me, and I look like a small baby. I look like a small child, but he was going to burp over his shoulder. Missouri, coming off one of their best seasons in recent memory, should have beaten who'd they play? LSU should have beaten LSU. I mean, it had a tremendous season. He was a huge part of it. And that guy, if he signs with the Cardinals tomorrow, let's just say he's available, signs with the Cardinals tomorrow, is he the best player on their defensive line?
Oh yeah, he is, and that's not a rip on Dante Stills. I think that it was last year was a testament to the pick that Dante Stills was, and he can be a part of the rotation. But my God, you break the huddle, you turn around, and you're walking up to the line of scrimmage, and this guy, if you're watching on our, you're watching live, and you see number 6 there, and he's not going to be wearing 6 for the Cardinals, but this menacing, just massive human, and Darius Robinson, who plays with explosive, movement and strength. I mean, that guy is a big time NFL player. And like, is 27 a reach for him? I don't think at this point. I think it's probably at the top end of where he could go, but it fills a need for him. You love the versatility that he brings to the defensive line. He can play 4-3 defensive end. He can play 3-4 defensive end. He can move all over the place. You really like what he brings and just kind of the violence that he plays with. He just seems like a Gannon Rawlis type defensive player.
Yeah, I mean, he's a penetrating 5 technique. I asked him what his preference. He says he doesn't have a preference. He can play on any defensive line. He can play that J.J. Watt role if they run a 3-4 and be the edge guy. He can play the true defensive tackle as a 5 technique or a 3 technique in a 4-3. I mean, he's a violent player. And he is just physically imposing, which they just don't have. They had too many guys at the end of the year playing on their defensive line, with all due respect, that should not be starting for NFL teams. That don't look like NFL starting defensive linemen.
And Damon did a good job with those graphics, and we only show about, obviously the 10 picks in the top 10, and then in that we showed 5. But like you're asking, where's Tyler Guyton at this point? He wasn't on. He went 24th in DJ's mock draft to the Dallas Cowboys. And you're looking for some other players like, the pass rusher Latu went to the Dolphins 21st. You had Rakestraw, the corner, go to the Eagles 22. Brian Thomas Jr. probably, if you take obviously Malik Neighbors, you're not taking a wide receiver at 27. So it was a little slim pickings. You had Mims maybe on the board if you wanted to go to the tackle route. Chop Robinson, as we showed, was a pick later, and I would much rather have Darius Robinson.
I would too,
over Chop Robinson, who I think is going to be a good player. I think he's got the ability, but I think that what the Arizona Cardinals lack and what Robinson could bring immediately would be big. Also, Graham Barton was on the board, versatile offensive lineman out of Duke, and I mean, it's not like I think when you're looking for us, like DJ's mock draft 1.0 was just. He was cooking, baby. I mean, when you get Maserati Marv at 4th overall, and then you take a polarizing prospect like Cooper DeJean at 27th overall, and you're saying he's going to be, potentially a starting outside corner for the Arizona Cardinals, I think that sparks debate, and that's beautiful. I'll take that. Where I think this is like, okay, Marvin Harrison Jr. is off the board, so you take the next best player, and that's Malik Neighbors at 4th overall, and then you fill a need at 27th overall. And then you would just assume at 35th overall, if you don't trade down, you're taking an offensive lineman.
Yeah, they would paint themselves in a tough spot there. They absolutely
with the offensive line? Sure.
Yeah, and you would almost have to entertain taking a pick and going up and getting Tyler Guyton if he enters the 20s. Like, you would almost have to entertain kicking a 3rd rounder to somebody and going and getting your tackle. And it's a scary proposition, but hell, it's going to be scary if they take a tackle at 4 or wherever they take one, and then we're going to be stressed because receivers always go fast. Like, this is a special tackle and receiver class and QB class, and the Cardinals need 2 of those 3 things. So it's a good place to be. But that means that, like, the surplus could go quickly, could go real quick. So I don't mind, like, if Darius Robinson's probably going to be a top 2 to 3 defensive tackle in the first round for a lot of teams. Like, okay, do I want a defensive tackle with that kind of ceiling who may be number 2 on their position board? I don't know that. Or like the 10th best offensive tackle. Like, that's what you're going to have to weigh. I also think, like, what's Malik Neighbors' floor? I don't know. I think Joe Alt's floor and Darius Robinson's floor are so effing high that at the end of the day, it's just like, those are two players. There's no sex appeal in terms of the pick themselves. There's a very little cachet, but you fast forward to November, a random November Sunday next year, and you want to battle your division and you're fighting for a playoff spot. And it's like, hey, look, we have two blue chippers, one on the offense, one on the defense, both play line of scrimmage players. Like that's where the NFL has won. It really is at the end of the day. Like, how often have the Cardinals been pushed around by everybody in their division? Sean McVay just whips the Cardinals every year, and they haven't fought back. This franchise has not punched anybody in the mouth really consistently since Bruce Arians was here.
Mm-hmm.
They have been finesse and soft, really. And Gannon, notwithstanding, they were tough this year. They just didn't have the talent. They have basically taken like half a decade into, we are a finesse team. We've got a quarterback that's undersized, and we're going to support him by giving him also undersized supporting players. And we're not going to invest in develop defensive or offensive linemen. They need to get I think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but it's all about continually getting back to basics. Like, why did they win with Bruce Arians? They were physical. They had David Johnson. They pounded the football. Their receivers were physical. They had pass rushers, right? I know they traded for Dwight Freeney, but they had Calais Campbell. They had tone setters on the line of scrimmage. Cardinals need to get back to that. That's the only way you're going to beat your division rivals. You're not going to out-athlete these other teams right now. Not with Puka Nacua and Stafford potentially going to the Hall of Fame and everything going on in San Francisco. Seattle's got 3 wide receivers, but it doesn't matter if they don't have the quarterback. So it just putting the puzzle pieces together. And I saw somebody earlier ask about Zaven Collins. We can touch on that here a little bit, Bo. People wondering, is he going to have his 5th-year option picked up? Are they going to trade him? They're not going to pick up his 5th-year option because it would be very expensive. Bo, you tweeted that out. He's not going anywhere. They love Zaven Collins. He's going to be a part of their rotation next year. I hope he pops, but he is, as much as like we're disappointed with how that pick has transpired, certainly below expectations, he's one of the biggest guys on the team. They don't have any other players that look like him. So they're going to hang on to him for now.
Yeah, until they find some surefire, like, not game wrecking, but impact making edge rushers.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a place for Zaven Collins. And I think there's always going to be a place, like, especially in a rotation that like Rollis and JG run, like there's going to be like guy who brings a different look, different size, different skill set. And there's also the expectation, I think, for Zaven Collins to make a huge jump from year 1 to year 2 in his new position. Like they're across the board. Like there is so much of an expectation that was set from this organization, its coaching staff, and its front office for the players that were in that locker room last year to make a tremendous jump from 2023 to 2024. Like it's going to be huge. And if it doesn't happen, this is not an organization that's going to just sit around and say, okay, well, we like you still. Like there is still going to be players are going to have to produce. And did you see, like, we're, speaking of like, just the division, like to try to out physical these guys. I was looking at the rankings, like ESPN already did one, and NFL.com just released theirs where it was ranking the rookie classes, and the Arizona Cardinals were once again in the top 10, but so were 2 of their division mates. Like the Rams were 3rd, and then you also had in the top 10 the Seattle Seahawks, and then the Arizona Cardinals were there at 10th. And it's like you're walking around with your chest puffed out, like, hell yeah, top 10 class. And then you see, oh, the Seahawks and the Rams. What the hell, man?
What has to be the differentiator is your quarterback play then.
Sure.
And your head coach. Like Seattle, to me, without Pete Carroll and rolling with Geno Smith, like their roster can be great. I still have major reservations. Sean McVay is elite. I think he's the best coach in the division. And when Stafford looks like he did at the end of the year, like, of course, everybody looks good by comparison. So, but yeah, it's frustrating. You have to hope that there's some regression in the division. Yeah, you just organically. But the Cardinals rightfully bought their time this year, were as competitive as they were capable of being competitive. They maxed out that roster. And now you try to time it perfectly where San Francisco, I see somebody put in the chat, Didi, maybe a Super Bowl hangover, starting to pay some people, older players. Pete Carroll's gone. Could Stafford and McVay, will they or won't they leave every other year? Like you're setting yourself up for Could the Cardinals be the Green Bay Packers this year? They surprise some people. Maybe they start slow and then they pick up steam. Packers were the youngest team in the NFL this year. That's what you're hoping for. Get to 9 to 10 wins and make some noise. And then come 2025, it's like, oh, we've reached contender status. We've hit on the right picks. Let's go.
Yeah. It's going to be, I agree with Didi. 2024 draft will be the most important in recent years. We need to hit on an A+++++ this draft. Look, I mean, it's an opportunity, especially in comparison and relative to what the talent pool was last draft and what it could potentially be. And it will materialize, obviously, during the college football season next year. But I think that this is the draft to really restock. It's a good place to have double-digit picks like Monti Ossenfort does.
We're going to see if the Cardinals can get some investments before the NFL draft, some smart, I would say, financial investments on the offensive and defensive line. But before we do that, we're going to talk to you about making smart financial decisions with our friends at Desert Financial Credit Union, the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicating to creating exceptional experiences by giving back and providing some financial solutions that both make lives better, including this guy. I've had Desert Financial Credit Union since I moved to the Valley. I have never looked back. On top of having a robust amount of options, including checking, savings, and more, mortgages, loans, credit card, investment options, and more, Desert Financial has a ton of locations. That's what's most important to me. Going and getting my cash when I need to fast at a bunch of locations here in the East Valley and more. Plus, if you're an Arizona sports fan, no better opportunity, no better place to do your banking than Desert Financial Credit Union. Represent the Red Sea. Check it out, the Red Sea Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card. You can see it listed down below. You can get yours for free right now. All you got to do, open up a free checking account online at desertfinancial.com/Cardinals to get started. Sign up. It takes a matter of minutes. And then right after, you're going to get your debit card in the mail just a couple days after the fact. One of the most seamless transactions you can do for a financial institution that makes life better. Check them out, desertfinancial.com/Cardinals to get started.
Tough to beat what's going on over there at Desert Financial. If you're dialed in financially, obviously it's a little easier to do family outings. You know, go find some fun for yourselves. But it's easy with our friends over at Phoenix Raceway. You don't break the bank with what they're doing over at the newly renovated Phoenix Raceway. And they've got the Shriners Children's 500 NASCAR season in full swing. You're not going to go out there and have to pay top dollar to watch, you know, the professional NASCAR drivers out there make the turns on Phoenix Raceway. It's a great event, March 8th through 10th. The best in-class fan experience meets the race's toughest drivers for 3 days of action, surrounded by the beautiful Estrella Mountains. If anything, you're getting outside, you're enjoying the sights, the sounds, the revving of the engine, the peeling of the tires. I don't know if that's the correct lingo, but I've been out there. I've been fortunate enough to have a hot pass, see the pits. It's unbelievable. Really kind of gets you going. It's exciting. You got kids. My son, I mean, once I take him there, I'm probably not going to be able to get him out of the venue there. But if you're a diehard racing fan or just simply looking for a fantastic day out, Phoenix Raceway is the place for you, and it promises fun for everyone with live entertainment. That Shriners Children 500, Phoenix Raceway, March 8th through 10th. Go get those good vibes for the whole family. Get your reserved grandstand tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
Tag, you're it, or are you? The Arizona Cardinals closely monitoring the tag tracker here as NFL teams.
The cringe just like, ugh.
I was thinking about my transition after your read, and that was the best I could come up with.
You were thinking, do I have any self-respect left for me? Nope, here we go.
Hey, what do you think this is? Time to rip on me like your mock draft yesterday? No, it's not. This is serious. Tag tracker, who's getting tagged, what's going down around the NFL circle. Franchise tag windows opened up today and go for a couple weeks here. NFL teams can begin negotiations with impending free agents of their own. The Arizona Cardinals, because of the state of their roster, nobody worth tagging. Sorry, Hollywood Brown and company. No tags being dished out by the Redbirds, but who's going to be available or potentially not for the Cardinals to target? Let's check out the offensive tag tracker here.
Whoa, look at this
yeah,
bad boy.
fancy boy, Damon Dog. There it is, the tag tracker, team, position, and of course, player. We have not heard on anybody. I thought we'd maybe hear a little bit in between the tea leaves, but it does sound like Baker Mayfield's going to make it to free agency. Saquon Barkley, Calvin Ridley. The names to watch in terms of being tagged, I think, are Michael Pittman Jr. and T. Higgins immediately stand out, Bo.
Yeah, guys that if the organization that they're currently with can't figure out an extension, they're not just going to let them walk. So they're going to tag them, and then they're going to kind of hold them for ransom until they can find somebody to give them something, an asset in return. And I think a guy like Higgins people are going to start to look at, what would be fair value in return? Would it be, maybe a first round pick potentially? I think that would be pretty rich asking price. Plus you would have to sign him to an extension. But then we're seeing like Pittman could test the market. And it feels like, Baker Mayfield, wasn't he on a hot mic situation over Radio Row? And it felt like he's just going to re-sign with the Bucks. He appreciated the opportunity, and they can find some even ground as far as negotiations go. But yeah, I mean, it's still like you're seeing Brian Burns. Like Brian Burns, the reports are out of Charlotte and around the Carolina Panthers are that the two sides aren't close on an extension. So Carolina would do the same thing likely that Cincinnati would do, where they would at the very least tag him and then try to find a trade partner so they don't let a player at 25 years old just walk. And the most they're going to get in return is a compensatory pick. So smart organizations are going to utilize the tag, and it's truly become somewhat of not what it's supposed to be used for. It's supposed to give, organizations advantages as far as retaining talent, but instead it's like they're holding these players ransom and holding them back from finding, more guaranteed long-term deals.
Yeah, Owenu from New England, who's played a good amount of both guard and tackle, specifically on the right side. Doesn't sound like he's in the market to be tagged, Bo, but it's also, if you're New England, it's like, why are you not getting a deal done with him? If he's your best offensive lineman, he's 26 years old. A lot of people trying to connect the dots. Is he the guy that the Cardinals would target? I don't know that. What I can say is, I think the Cardinals' needs are going to be more on the left side of the offensive line, and he has only ever played on the right side. And playing left tackle is tough, and playing left guard is tough. So if he becomes available, though, you at least have to have the conversation they've already had. They put their big board together. We know that it was completed by February 1st, that being Ossenfort and company, but he's got to be a top guys that you're pursuing if he's available. He's been a great player ever since he was drafted. I think he was in the same draft class as Justin Jefferson, consistently in the top tier of PFF grades. I mean, he's a PFF darling. He had a really robust year for a bad Patriots offense. I can't imagine what Petzing and company are going to be able to do with him if he comes to the Arizona Cardinals. I think, though, if they signed him, it would give you a little bit of flexibility, and that's what they want, if you didn't get your tackle right away. Okay, so we didn't get our tackle. Can Owenu play tackle in a pinch, but we primarily want to use him at guard? That's that roster flexibility and that versatility that you always say Gannon alludes to. Like, who can do a bunch of good stuff for us, right? Who can really help us out? Like Justin Pugh, say what you want about him. Like, he kicked around all over the offensive line. That ended up being a good signing for the Arizona Cardinals. Like, can this be a better version of that? But on the surface, if they were signed Owenu, I think it would be to play guard. I think it would be to play next to Yelda Froldholt, and then you're keeping the other tackle spot warm with Kelvin Beachum for a rookie to come in and play.
Yeah. What have you seen any word? I just haven't, as far as Justin Madubuike, the defensive lineman out of Baltimore, whether or not Baltimore would consider giving him a franchise tag. It's a pretty high value for the defensive lineman. I just haven't seen any rumors either way of which way it could go. I mean, I would think that Baltimore would want to try to retain a player of the caliber of Madubuike and at least give themselves some more time to negotiate and hammer out an extension. But, it doesn't become tough when the player is staring down $20 million guaranteed for the season.
I think, I don't know their cap situation. They spent some money last offseason. Remember they gave Odell Beckham that stupid contract. Like
They
made some
paid Roquan Smith a ton of money,
right.
didn't they? Yeah.
They made some financial decisions that I think were out of character for them. So pulling them up now in real time on overthecap.com, the Baltimore Ravens cap space, they have $5 million. Now the cap is projected to go up from the projected 238 million to around 251. So everybody's going to get a little extra coin, but their cap space projecting right now, and they're paying Lamar Jackson 32 million, which is a good deal. Ronnie Stanley 26 million, Marlon Humphrey 22, Marcus Williams 18, Mark Andrews 17, Roquan Smith 13.5, Bowser, their other tackle 7.5, Morgan Moses. I mean, they're paying their kicker $6 million. They're paying a lot of people a lot of money. So I think at the end of the day, it's just an economic decision. I don't think he's going to be tagged by them. I think that doesn't preclude them from getting a deal done because they're so good at that. They're so savvy, but they would be over the cap if they did that, even with the increase, because you're talking about a franchise tag that correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it in the $20 plus million?
Yeah, it's 20 plus. That's what's going to get you for the defensive lineman. Look, there's a couple options, and it's going to be fascinating to see how the Arizona Cardinals, if their view is our main priority is solidifying the offensive front when you've got guys like Matabuke and Christian Wilkins potentially, and still know we're out of South Beach in Miami, and what the Dolphins would do with their big hog molly in the middle, the beef that they have on their defensive front. I mean, there's two guys that I think immediately could help out with one of the least, talented position groups in the NFL right now. And like Matabuke, and Christian Wilkins, they change how the Arizona Cardinals could play up front.
Jalen Blair saying, does Matabuke scare you guys? Best season in a contract year, Jordan Phillips. I mean, it's hard to be scared off by 13 sacks from a defensive tackle.
His pass rush win rate was unreal this year.
Even if he does half of that,
yeah.
Even if he comes to Arizona and he has 6.5, 7 sacks a year, it's infinitely better than anything they've had in forever. And you need so much more than just, hey, this guy's a good player, let's insert him.
I think his analytics meet his dogalytics pretty well. His manalytics. Take all the lytics. He's got them all.
I just feel like he's the kind of tone setter that you can, and we'll take a look at the tag tracker for defenses here. He is one of the few guys that could be available that allows you to be physical with your division rivals. Obviously, Chris Jones is in that category as well. Brian Burns, almost a sure thing, along with Josh Allen, they get tagged. But it's those two names toward the middle of the bottom, Christian Wilkins, Justin Matabuke. And then I would also include Leonard Williams on a lesser tier, but monitoring absolutely. You need to sign one of these guys. I think Cardinal fans, I'll speak for them, will be disappointed if you're not in the market and you don't secure one of these guys. Because here's what it's going to come down to, Bo. Who is paying them the most money? You hit free agency. Yes, you need to vet the organization and make sure your family wants to live here and blah, blah, blah. Arizona, Phoenix, the greater Scottsdale area, it's a destination place to live in America right now. It's a top 5 economic climate in the United States right now. Everybody wants to live here. Mostly everybody. Yes, South Beach, Florida, they don't have state taxes. If your contract exceeds the offers that Justin Matabuke or Christian Wilkins are offered by other franchises, they will come here. I'm sick of the narrative, players don't want to play in Arizona. That's absolute garbage. Get any agent on this podcast on the phone. They would say they're going to take the most amount of money. Justin Matabuke has won a lot of games in Baltimore. Christian Wilkins made the playoffs last year. Cardinals are ascending franchise, but these guys get one shot, maybe two, but typically Justin Matabuke is 26 years old. You think he's going to cash in again with a huge contract when he's 30, 31? He might. The analytics and prior contracts of this magnitude, Bo, would suggest this is it for him. So if you're trying to set up your family and your kids and your sister's kids and your parents and whomever, you got to get your money and get it now. So the Cardinals need to spend. You have all this money. You have no defensive lineman.
Yeah. You see Brian Burns said he wants $30 million a year.
Good. Pay him.
25 years old. Top 5 pass rusher in the league already.
I mean, they're going to pay him that because they have no one and they have to. But like, good. These guys should. I always root for players to get their money. Do it. Go get your. This is a violent game with CTE ramifications. Hopefully not, but you're rolling the dice every time you put on a helmet. Go get your money. JJ Watt came here because the Cardinals paid him the most money. Like, yes, the Cardinals were ascending at the time. He got the biggest, fattest check from the Arizona Cardinals and Michael Bidwell. That's why he came here.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
I'll run through some of these chats. Got some good ones in here. We've got Jason saying, are we good with Clayton Tune as QB2, or would we Tyrod Taylor, Jameis Winston be a smart addition?
Yeah, I can answer that, and you can speak your truth on it, Bo. I think we're trying to figure out what the plan is for the backup situation. I think that I know they like Clayton Tune a lot, and you and I talked about this off air. I think it's going to be, and this may be tough for a lot of fans to hear, I think it's going to be another Tune number 2 with competition from a Jeff Driscoll-esque type of veteran. The more we kind of hear, I don't know if they're going to, and I think this is the wrong avenue. I don't think they're going to play in the Jacoby Brissett sandbox. I think they're going to go with cheap at the position.
Tune Squad moves on. Yeah, I mean, look, the organization was bought in on a guy like Clayton Tune throughout last season. Good, for better or worse. Like they gave him the QB2 job. And if you think about the roster and how guys were moving up and down the depth chart the entire time, like Clayton Tune was steady. QB2 the entire time, ever since he got drafted out of the 5th round out of Houston. So I don't think, despite having a bad performance, historically bad performance against the Cleveland Browns, like there is, I would bet, some understanding that, they knew he wasn't ready for that. That's why they were very reluctant, even through Colt McCoy and Josh Dobbs' struggles, to put him in the lineup. They put him out there, and he was that last gas bridge to Kyler Murray. And then, I think that they're going to try to continue to build this guy up, and that he could continue to be, when you're paying your starting quarterback what you're going to pay Kyler Murray, you have to make some concessions elsewhere. And you're doing that at the backup quarterback position, but that's also not without, some sort of confidence that you can potentially figure it out down the road. So yeah, I like what you're saying. I think it could match up with what we saw, how the organization utilized Tune last season, that they're not just going to say, okay, we went through all that, and now we're going to punt you to the curb, and we're going to bring in, and we're going to pay somebody, 4 or 5 times more than you to potentially play as much as you did last year too, which would be brutal.
Would you be disappointed, or would you support another day 3 quarterback selection? Not early.
With as many picks as they have, yeah, I don't have an issue with that. But I mean, is it going to be enough competition to potentially elevate what you need to see from Tune in his rookie to sophomore season?
I think I would like to get a quarterback who maybe feels a little bit more comfortable, and maybe Tune will feel better about it next year. When they want to sneak the football and you just don't have that option with Kyler Murray, is there a better option out there to be able to help you convert on short yardage for a quarterback to come in and grab the ball?
So you want Joe Milton?
I don't know. I just mean, like, can they?
David and I saw him in Mobile. He's the biggest human being on planet Earth.
Huge.
He's absolutely.
I don't want like Taysom Hill, but like, could you draft a player the caliber of that to help you offset some of Kyler Murray's, I don't want to say shortcomings and come off like a jerk, but like, he can't QB sneak it to their effectiveness, and they want to be able to do the tush push. Like, and Tune always looked kind of uncomfortable doing that, and it always made me go, oh, are they going to fumble? Is he going to get smoked here? Like, what's going on? Maybe somebody who's just a little bit more comfortable doing that. I don't know. Because are you going to have 3 quarterbacks active on game day? You might.
Yeah. It didn't seem like that was what they wanted to do at any point this season. But let's see. Anything else? Let's see. No mock draft, Tej. We did one yesterday. We'll do another one this week. Also, we'll have already starting to get some mock draft entries from all you great people. We'll do that at the end of the week.
I see Eddie saying Kyler's going to miss time next year, like most quarterbacks. Not having a viable backup is lunacy. I agree with not. I agree with that statement to some degree.
Yeah.
I think they'd be smart to invest in a Brissett or
I don't
somebody.
think Tune has the luxury that he's going. I don't think he's going to have the luxury that he had last year, where they just didn't have any other options. But like I'm sure they'll bring in some competition. But I think also like they drafted him, they developed him. They're going to continue to develop him, and that's going to play towards his favor until he completely proves them wrong.
He had a good training camp too last year. Like I know he was going out. The barometer was low. Colt McCoy couldn't throw the football. God love him. But Tune looked like an NFL.
I will say Tune's he's a more talented thrower of the football than Chris Streveler. I mean,
way more.
But at the same time, look. I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, if you can't complete passes, if you can't get into rhythm, like, and that's a question I think that is very valid about Tune. And I know the sample size is very small, but I understand it. Like you're coming off of preseason where he just completed over 50% of his passes. And then you had, the game against Cleveland, which was just hot garbage. He's got a lot to prove. He's got a lot to prove, but I think he'll have an opportunity to prove it. And I think he's one of those guys when like April 15th, when first-year head coaches can start practices again. I think Tune is going to be there again from day one, playing and trying to get better.
They're going to have some competition. They think he's going to rise to the competition that they bring in. Don, $1.99 super chat. We just alluded to this. Did you hear about the salary cap going up $25 million? Again, the projected 235 to now 250, 251. Yeah, it only benefits the Arizona Cardinals. No. And it's why, again, sense of urgency. With not a lot of players to re-sign of their own volition, go out and pay other people. Get a couple big names.
It was Jerry Jones saying, "Oh, did you hear Dak Prescott wants $60 million a year? Hey, Raj, can you help me out? Can we boost this thing up?"
I like this comment here. Rondo, find a big day 3 QB for a sneak. 100%. And again, draft a quarterback, and if they beat out Clayton Tune, that tells you everything you need to know about Clayton Tune. But they have 5th and 6th round picks, assuming that, we all hate that though on day 3, when we're like, oh man, so-and-so fell. And even though we passed on him 12 times, we think he could be a stud for us. And then they take a quarterback and they're like, oh, what are you doing? That happens every year. And then that player that we love ends up going undrafted and we never hear from them again.
Well, I mentioned Milton as more tongue in cheek, just because he's just a behemoth, but you watch him in the Senior Bowl and you're just like, this guy has all the skills, but my God, he is not a good quarterback.
Oh, Giordano says it in the chat. I couldn't remember his name. Luke Whippler last year, the Ohio State center, that Tony Pauline said that the Cardinals were going to 100% draft him, and then the Cardinals literally couldn't pass on him more. They rubbed it in the salt in the wound every time they picked. They're like, it's not going to be Luke Whippler. That was
our day 2 coverage. If you were doing the Luke Whippler drinking game, you were hammered drunk by the end of it, because we mentioned his name every single just player that went off the board. I think Luke Whippler might fall right into the lap of the Arizona Cardinals, and they passed him up at least 5 times that day.
He got drafted by the Browns. Didn't play a game. Sad. It's not sad. The content right now. Go PHNX.com. Become a diehard. We got some exclusive diehard content coming out via the PHNX Cardinals Discord you will not want to miss. Plus, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be dropping insights live from Indianapolis that you are only going to be able to access. Unfortunately, not on this show, not on the Twitter streets, but on PHNX Cardinals, the Discord. Behind the scenes footage. We're going to just be filming people without their permission, put it in the Discord, a bunch of fun stuff like that. But no, in all seriousness, if you want a behind-the-scenes look at PHNX Cardinals at the NFL Combine, become a diehard right now. I promise you it will be worth it. All you got to do, go to gophnx.com, become a diehard, and you get a free hat and or shirt of your choosing for every year you're a diehard. It's not a one-off. You get access to 100% of the content, which is almost already all free at gophnx.com. But then if you're just thinking to yourself, I want to be there with Johnny Bowen, Damon and company, Britton Golden, Shane, CHGO. I want to see it all, do it all. I'm just going to be taking videos and I'm going to be throwing it in the Discord, and we're just going to let it rip, baby. From the Combine, you guys are going to love it, but you got to become a part of the community. You got to be a PHNX Cardinals diehard. You will not regret it, I promise.
You going to be running film when we're out at the bar? Is it 2 a.m.?
Well, that might be a little inappropriate,
probably
but I think it's going to be appropriate in the sense that, like, probably during working hours, during business hours,
Okay.
Brian asking if I'm going to follow somebody into the bathroom like I did Anthony Richardson last year. It's on the table. It absolutely is. And the fact that Britton Golden, ex-Cardinal wide receiver, is coming with us, I think gives me legitimacy. So if people see me talk to Britton, they're going to be like, okay, this guy's legit. This guy, I'll talk to this guy. I'll talk to this guy on my way to the John. Talk to John on my way to the John.
You're dreaming, man. I don't know if that's what you think is going to legitimize Johnny Venerable.
Come over here. Come over here. Malik Neighbors is heading to the bathroom. Britton, come here. Come over here. Britton's going to be like, get away from me. I don't know you.
Oh, man. Another great episode in the books. We're going to start looking at a couple of these. Hopefully we'll have some tags and some more idea of who's going to be available for the Arizona Cardinals in less than a month when free agency opens. And so does that legal tampering window before free agency. By tomorrow, we'll know who's tagged, at least a couple of the players. But we will have, what are we going, defense or offense tomorrow? Defensive free agent or offensive free agent?
I think we're going to go defensive free agent. Let us know in the comments who you want as a defensive free agent, and like this video. Let's get it to 300 likes today.
Let's do that. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, I think, right? Tuesday, and we'll see you Wednesday on another edition of PHNX Cardinals.
We all silly like the mayor.